Well, in the case of a veteran soldier like this, many are wondering whether post-traumatic stress disorder may have played a part. To discuss the growing problem of PTSD in the US military, we're joined by Tom Tarantino, Deputy Policy Director for the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, and himself a veteran of the conflict in Iraq. He joins us now from Washington. Tom, great to have you with us. I know we don't know much about this soldier or what caused him to commit these atrocities, but what did you think when you first heard the news?
Yeah, it's a terrible tragedy, and I was incredibly saddened. It's not just a tragedy for those who lost their lives and their families, which is certainly, I couldn't imagine their pain, but it's a tragedy for the 2.4 million Americans who have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, done good work over there, and then have come home and served with honor. It's a tragedy for the entire military and veterans community.
It really just undoes all their good work, doesn't it? Now, this particular staff sergeant, he had toured Iraq 3 times. He obviously suffered an accident, which we have reported, and now he was in Afghanistan on what would be, I guess, all up, 4 tours. Is this too much stress for one individual?
Well, no, and I think it's important to realize that, this is the actions of one individual, and there have been very few things like this happen. I think that this generation of veterans has been incredibly resilient. I think that, we have gone and deployed and done everything our country's asked for us, and by and large, we have served with honor and distinction over the last 10 years. I think that this is an isolated incident, and I think it's important that we don't let this one incident stain the honor and the service and the sacrifice that American men and women have faced when serving overseas.
But Tom, surely it must highlight that these men and women are under enormous stress, and when you're out on duty, for 4 tours, that it must take its toll.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is definitely a toll taken, but it's really important that when we talk about this incident, we don't automatically revert to stereotypes. We don't automatically say, well, it must be post-traumatic stress or it must be a traumatic brain injury, because that really sort of cheapens the seriousness of these issues, and it doesn't address the actual facts of this case. In the very few times something like this has happened, in fact, mental health issues have not been a factor. And so I think it's good to have conversations about mental health awareness so we can reduce the stigma and help service members who need treatment and need care readjust back to civilian life or continue to serve. But it's really important that we do this in a constructive manner and not try to revert to stereotypes and when trying to make sense of this horrible tragedy.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do, Tom. We are trying to make sense of it. Your organisation has lobbied for mandatory mental health screening for returning US veterans. How often do these veterans undergo such screenings?
Right, well, now every single person who returns from, now Afghanistan, is screened for mental health injuries. And they're not just done this on the day they come back, but they're done this throughout the readjustment process at several months in. And we just recently were able to pass a law where people are going to be able to get pre-screenings before they deploy so that you can actually have a baseline and figure out, what are the issues that these service members are dealing with. It's important to note that trauma responses are a normal reaction to extremely abnormal events. And only about 20% of service members will ever actually exhibit symptoms of post-traumatic stress. But for those 20%, we have to make sure that they have the screening and care and treatment available, not just within the military, but throughout their life, so that they can continue to either adjust to civilian life or continue to serve if they so choose.
Tom, how would you describe the military's approach to the mental health of soldiers?
Right, I think nowadays it's a lot better than it used to be. When I was in Iraq in 2005, we didn't really have a good handle on these issues. I think now that the military has started to study this issue, we've gotten several years of intensive study and looking at it as a global problem. I think we have a long way to go, though, of understanding mental health injuries as injuries. Right now, there is a horrible stigma, not just within the military, but within society in America as a whole, of looking at mental health injuries as something other than what they are. I frequently tell soldiers, if you get shot, you're not going to walk around with a bullet hole in your chest. You're going to go to a medic, you're going to get it treated, and you're going to get rehabbed and get back in the fight. We have to start thinking of these injuries in that context so that it's something that you go and get treatment for so you can successfully readjust when you come home from war.
Well, Tom, as a veteran from Iraq, we certainly do appreciate your insight. Tom Tarantino from the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America joining us from Washington. Many thanks for that.